Thank you, Chair. Members, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Business and Culture to be held hybrid and socially distanced, so both remotely via WebEx and physically in the Guildhall Chamber. If we just take the roll call then, Councillor Jason Barr.
Here.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
Here.
Councillor Shauna Cusack. Alderman Morris Devaney. Councillor Gary Donnelly.
Anshaw.
Councillor Rory Farrell.
Here.
Alderman Darren Guy. Councillor Sean Harkin. Councillor Conor Heaney. Councillor Patricia Logue. Councillor John McGowan.
Anshaw.
Councillor Kieran Maguire. Alderman David Ramsey. And Councillor Lillian Sinai-Barr.
I'm here now, Stephen. Alderman Devaney.
Okay, and Councillor Patricia Logue, you here as well?
Just logged on now, Stephen. Sorry about that.
You're okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, members. I'll just read out the broadcast announcement. So I'd like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the Guildhall or on attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeat viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to attendance at this meeting, you're consenting to be filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes, and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded only to have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the council privacy notice is on the council website. Now on to item 4, which is a declaration of members' interests. I'm going to declare an interest in item 8 as I work on an ESF project, although I'm not one of the projects that have been funded in this item. Are there any other declarations of interests? Please make them known now or as the meeting progresses. Okay, moving on. I don't have any items for chairperson's business, and no one has been in touch with me to raise an item. I suppose the only thing I would just say at this section is, I suppose, given the date it's on it, it would be remiss of me not to mention the Dairy Girls series starting tonight. And for any of us that were lucky enough to be at the premiere last week, people are on for a treat tonight when the new series starts. So other than that, we're going to move on to item 6, which is matters arising from the open minutes of the Business and Culture meeting. Can I have a proposer and seconder, please?
No proposed, Alderman Devaney, Chair.
And
I'll second the
Councillor
chair.
Farrell seconded it here in the chamber. So are there any matters arising from the minutes? Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair. It's item B45, which was the presentation from the Northwest Carnival Initiative. And massive part of that presentation was about the plans for St. Patrick's Day. And I have to admit that it was a very successful and impressive event, which culminated in an absolutely wonderful parade. It was a fantastic spectacle. And I'm sure that anybody that was in attendance thoroughly enjoyed it as it snaked through the city. So hats off to the organisers in Northwest Carnival Initiative and their partner organisations and In Your Space and Greater Chantala Community Arts and the Rainbow Project. But I've got a question. We focused a lot on what the Northwest Carnival Initiative does. We'd asked them about what support they get from the Arts Council. And at that meeting, I had mentioned that we were supposed to have DFC officials on here today to discuss a more regionally balanced approach in regard to Arts Council funding. And I noticed that it's not on the agenda and they're not online. So is there any particular reason that DFC officials are not here today to give that long-awaited presentation on fair funding for organisations in this council area? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you take that, Stephen.
Thank you. And just a direct question, they were due to come and had confirmed, and then just last week, unfortunately, there was an issue that cropped up that they couldn't attend today. So we have rearranged and we've given them another date. I can't remember off the top of my head whether it's the next meeting or the one following, but it is being rearranged and they will be here to present. But it was something beyond everybody's control. They had to pull out today.
Can I just respond to that, please, Chair? So I think it's disappointing that representatives from DFC who fund the Arts Council aren't here today. And I think it's disappointing that we have no opportunity to understand their plans for more balanced regional funding when it comes to arts and culture across the north, because the reality is that DFC fund the Arts Council, and in 2020-21, organisations in Belfast got £19 million in funding, and organisations across our city and district got £1.7 million in funding. And that's not fair. That's not balanced. It's not in the vicinity of being fair or balanced. And we have been waiting for this meeting since September last year, and then 3 weeks out from an election, we're told that it's not going to happen. So I have my views on the cancellation, but let all our members draw their own conclusions on that. So disappointing. It needs to happen because this issue isn't going away, and action needs taken as soon as possible. And they need to come here and tell us how they're going to do things differently, because the status quo is unsustainable. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Farrell. Councillor Logue, is it on the same issue?
Yes, Chair, yeah.
Okay, come on now, and then I'll go back to Alderman Hussey.
Well, first of all, I would just like to concur with the previous councillor regarding the St. Patrick's Day parade, and well done to all the organisers and those that provided the support and the Northwest Carnival. And I should have certainly concur that we need to get the DSD officials and the Arts Council and whoever else, we certainly need to get them on to explain to us the whole rationale and what we can do to try and make things better. However, but forgive, this is just a question, and I know because of the election, Herda has kicked in, and I'm just wondering, is it because of that? Because I do know that, when elected reps, whether they're standing or not, it's they don't get a reply from certain organisations, etc., during Herda. So I was just wondering, maybe is that the excuse? But if not, we certainly need to be getting the man as soon after the election as possible.
Just in answer that, Councillor Logue, that wasn't the reason that they give us. They said it was just unavoidable in terms of another commitment that they had to do. So we are arranging for them to come in, as I said, as soon as possible for either the next committee or the committee after.
Okay, I'll just check with Councillor Jason Barr. Is this on the same issue as well? Because I know Alderman Hussey wants in on a different matter.
Chair, it's just to do with concurring with the two previous councillors on St. Patrick's Day parades. Just from a Strabane councillor's perspective, it was absolutely amazing to see the thousands come out again within Strabane, and it was great following Councillor Raymond Barr's proposal 2 years ago to bring it back up to Melmead Road. Fantastic to see the Melmead Road lined once again, and those out of the nursing homes able to enjoy it. So no, brilliant all around. Thank you once again. Well done, the organisers, for another fantastic event locally. Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. I'm not a member of the committee. Can I concur firstly with the previous remarks? Certainly the imbalance of equity of provision has to be addressed, and I totally support the concerns on that. I wanted to go to BC 53, which was the markets, which were a great success, and that's already been referred to. But there are questions now from within particularly the Castlereagh community, and I'm sure it's the same in Eglinton, as to when will the next one be. So it's to ask officers, are they planning to work on the success that I know the Castlereagh one was, and I'm sure the Eglinton one was as well. Are they planning to work on the success of those and develop future similar events? As I said one time before, I forget which meeting it was, I said the question I was asked, when will the next one be? And you know, that's from people on the ground. It's from the traders who were involved. So there's a great desire for a continuation of this type of event. So to ask officers, is there planning afoot to ensure that we will have a continuation of this type of event outside of the city? Thank you.
I'll take this one. Yeah. Thanks, Alderman. I'll say for that. And yet, no, the two markets in question were very successful. I guess the reason we were able to deliver those two markets was the fact that we were in receipt of funding from DERA to do that as part of the COVID recovery and revitalisation programme that both DERA and DFC had funded in the back end of 2021. So we're able to do it when we have budget. We haven't budgeted for further markets within this year's rates allocation, and sure, it's something we can consider as we project going forward. And if there is sufficient demand and it financially works out okay, then certainly it'd be something we would definitely consider, budget pending.
Chair, if I can come back briefly, I thank Conor for that.
Go ahead, Derek.
Thanks, Chair. There is demand. Let's have that demand met. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. There's no more indicated speakers under this item and matters arising, so that moves us on to item 7, and I think Kevin's taking this.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to update you on the status of the off-street car parking contract and to seek your approval for an extension to the existing agency agreement with DFI, the delivery of parking enforcement services up to the 31st of October 2023. You'll all be aware by now the Council is responsible for the off-street car parking and have a number of paid car parks right throughout the city and the district. The enforcement in relation to those car parks is carried out by NSL, and the PCN processing is carried out by DFI's Parking Enforcement Unit. In 2019, 9 councils signed a new agency agreement with DFI for a further 3 years up to 2022. And back in April of last year, members approved the opportunity to test the market and seek service delivery options outside of the current agency agreement post October 2022 this year. So since then, the Regional Off-Street Car Parking Group, which comprises the participating councils, the 9 of them, have been meeting with DFI to progress options for off-street enforcement contract. One of the partner councils has agreed to act as the lead council on the engagement of a consultant who would assist with a tender procurement process. It was estimated that this would take up to 12 months from commencement of tender preparation to awarding of a contract ahead. There has subsequently been a delay in the appointment of the consultants to assist the councils to develop the procurement framework, and as such, councils, to be prudent, now want to extend the existing agency agreement beyond the current period up to 2023 to allow time to be able to get the tender out to market and get an appropriate contractor appointed to deliver beyond that period. So the purpose of this report is basically to ask your approval to seek an extension of the current agency agreement for the service delivery of enforcement up until the 31st of October 2023.
Okay, first indicated speaker is Alderman Hussey.
Chair, it's not on the issue of enforcement. If you want to, councillors who are working on the issue, it's on a car parking issue as opposed to enforcement.
Okay, well, I'll come back to you then, Derek.
That's great. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Kevin, for the report. And obviously, we want value for money for ratepayers, and hopefully this results in a more effective and ultimately cheaper parking enforcement system. I do have concerns about creeping privatisation and the potential loss of jobs in DFI. I'm not sure if that would be an outworking of this, and potential concerns regarding governance and accountability arrangements, especially around challenging PCNs. There'll be a lot of people that come to us saying about challenging parking charge notices, and DFI currently are very, very responsive, as they are a public body. But we will make the decision when there's a proposal put in front of us. But has there been any discussion about privatisation, or are we looking to do this in-house, or is it an outside company that we're looking to use to procure these services? Thank you.
Yeah, no, so the current arrangement is that it is an outside company that does it. It's NSL, and they have an agreement with DFI. And so there's obviously 8 other councils that are involved in these types of discussions, and the primary focus is around delivering a high quality service. So clearly there's a legislative background to off-street car parking, and so anybody, regardless of whether it's private sector provider or a public sector provider, has the assurance that they're safe in relation to the legislation. So that challenge and function, that ability to appeal, will always remain. So value for money will be the focus around who the replacement, if it is a replacement provider. It is incumbent on us. We do need to go back out to market from a contractual perspective. The current contract allows us to go until that period, but we can do an extension, but we can't extend beyond that. So it'll be up to DFI in relation to the actual the processing of it, but the enforcement side is NSL. So it's 2 separate issues, which will be teased out over the next period of time. And obviously, I'll be bringing back a recommendation and a report in a timely manner in relation to what happens going forward. But legislatively, that challenge function will always exist. It has to. It's within the law, in the off-street car parking order.
Okay, I have no further indicated speakers on the paper, so I'll take you now, Derek, if you want to just touch on the item that you mentioned earlier.
I appreciate that, Chair, and thanks very much. With regard to car parking, the director and myself did do a walk around in several car parks in my own PA, and there's a growing concern as to the state of, and indeed the layout of the Albert Street car park in Castlederg, not to mention the entrance via via Prospect Terrace, pedestrian entrance, main entrance, pedestrian entrance from the car park into Main Street, Castlederg. I had sent an email to relevant officers. I haven't had a reply yet on that. I'm sure there will be one coming. There's also growing concern, and I'm sure other councillors have received it, with regard to car parking in Newton Stewart, which again is within the Derg DEA. When will officers begin to address these outstanding issues? Thank you, Chair.
If I could take that one, Chair, and yes, we're aware of there's approximately 11 car parks that require work. That work has in some instances been turned out to be more complicated than we initially thought. So we're trying to separate the work out into the ones that are a resurfacing, relining issue, and others, for instance, in Claudy and the one I mentioned in Castlederg, that may require some traffic management input. So we need to procure that. So we're currently pushing that through with our property side, looking at the basic ones that just require a resurfacing, relining, and then on our project management side, as members will be aware, there's a significant number of capital projects. We've been trying to get additional resource into those two sections. That, I believe, has now been resolved, and we're working on those scopes of works to get them out, to get them done as soon as possible. They're clearly of issue. They're on our health and safety list. They're on our capital repairs list. So we're well aware that they need done, and we're working very hard to get the project completed and get it out, get it back, and get the repair work done. So we're all over it. It's disappointing it hasn't been done to date, but it's been unavoidable.
Chair, quick response to that. Is there a timeline?
Yeah. Just waiting for project management to come back to confirm the timeline. So I would be loath to give you that at this stage, but I will come back and we'll detail that back out once I get it. The other question, sorry, I should have said in terms of Newton Stewart. Obviously, I've had a walk around Newton Stewart and I've engaged with a representative of the traders. I've looked at the issues in terms of car parking. There are issues in terms of on-street car parking, which obviously isn't council's responsibility. We're trying to get a meeting in the diaries again. We were trying to get the resource set up so that we could have a proper meeting with traders rather than just a kind of engagement and listen to the issues again. So we want to be able to come and talk to the traders in Newton Stewart, talk about the car parking issues, and have an action plan from there rather than just, as I say, just a listening exercise. So that I believe the chief executive is working and getting that date together. And his office will be in touch very shortly with those representatives, and we'll move that project forward as well.
Thanks, Chair. Much appreciated, Stephen.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. So there's no further indicated speakers on this. Can I have a proposer and seconder? It's been proposed by Councillor Farrell here in the room.
I'll second it, Alderman Devaney.
Thanks, Morris. Okay, that concludes that item and moves us on to item 8. And again, I think Kevin's bigger than this.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to secure your approval for the allocation of match funding to support 6 ESF projects within the council area. Members will be aware that council previously match funded 5 ESF projects over a 4-year period with an annual pot allocated up to the 31st of March 2022. Those projects are listed in the table in the report. So in May 2021, the Department for Economy advised that the proposed extension of the existing funding agreement for a further year would not be possible based on advice from the European Commission. Therefore, DfE issued an open call for applications in June 2021 with a closing date of July for new applications. Similar to previous years, successful projects would receive 65% of the requested budget, and project promoters would be expected to find the remaining balance. So at the application stage, 11 projects identified that were successful, and that's 10 organisations that Derry City and Strabane District Council as a match funder. Following the scoring of applications, DfE has informed Council that all 11 projects were successful in their application process and that they would match fund 5 of these projects from the following organisations. So that leaves a balance of 6 organisations who require match funding, and their requests are outlined below, and they come to a total of £127,551. So the request for match funding is detailed there. This is less than previous years, but it is worth noting that, as has been in the case in our previous match funding allocations, they were not decided upon through a competitive process because we were able to fund all remaining requests once project applicants had exhausted all other avenues of match funding. So that's good news that they were able to get match from other sources. So this has allowed us to maximise, this approach has maximised other funding sources to the council area to ensure that as many projects as possible are able to proceed. As has been set out, the funding has been allocated within the current rates process, and I'm asking members' approval that we go ahead and award the match funding as detailed to the 6 projects outlined in the report.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. And Councillor Lowe, your declaration of interest has been noted in the chat, but we'd be glad if you could verbalise it just for anyone watching online. So we'll go ahead now, Councillor Lowe.
Right, I'm a member of the Triax board, Chair. No, I just want to welcome this report. I think it's great that all our new groups have been awarded this funding. I know from being on the Triax board myself and from talking to all the workers within this project, you know, it has really been successful in helping a lot of people gain skills and work in our area and beyond. And I do hope that the Department of Economy, after the election, that they do keep to their commitment and fund those other projects that are waiting to be funded. But I think it is good that new projects have had the chance to get their match funding from the council, and especially I see there's a couple of rural groups on there too as well. Can I just ask, I have only one question, and I do see, I think it's called job direction. They're mentioned in both columns to be waiting on the Department for Economy funding, and they're also mentioned in the council one. So could you just explain that for me, please, Kevin? Thank you. But I just want to propose this recommendation to you as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. I would need to double check on that, to be quite honest with you, just to see whether it's a typo in some part of the report. But I do know that they are one of the projects that we're funding. I just need to double check in relation to that DFE and that. So I'll come back to you on that one, if you don't mind.
Thanks, Patricia. Can I just double check there? Did you propose that item at the end of your?
I did, Chair, and thank you, Kevin, for coming back. That's job direction. I just black screens there, so thank you.
Okay, next speaker is Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Kevin, for the report. I'm happy to second on behalf of the SDLP, but I've got a question. So the previous incarnation of this that sort of expired in March 22, there was 5 projects that we match funded. Does that mean there was more projects that we didn't match fund, or we match funded every single project? So what I'm getting at is that there's 11 projects this time, 5 are DFE funded and match funded, and then 6 are DFE funded with our match funding. So are there more projects? Is there a greater spend on the ESF in this council area compared to the last time? Huh?
So every project, so basically what the ESF process says is that the groups obviously make an application through the ESF process, or they did previously, and then got funded 65% initially through ESF. So generally what happened was DFE and others, other departments, match funders, agencies will work to try to make sure that the groups have enough, have their entire match funding allocation to make sure that the projects are viable. So what we have done as a council is we've kind of coordinated that process to try to ensure that there's the maximum investment comes in to the council area. So the last time we would have managed that. So once all of the groups who had received their entire so basically the groups that weren't successful in receiving match funding from other sources, we stepped in then as a council to be able to ensure, look, that those groups could deliver really important, viable projects. So this process now, I don't have the figures in relation to what the entire funding pot is for this 1 year, as opposed to what it was previously in relation to ESF. Clearly, the big issue from our perspective is what's going to happen after 22-23. These were European structural funds, ERDF funded projects delivering around economic and activity and looking at that sort of employability area. So it's what's going to happen beyond this. DFE have obviously been able to thankfully put on a kind of stopgap in advance of whether it's shared prosperity, levelling up, community renewal funding, and the mainstream UK government funding. So all the projects that applied and that were successful now are viable, whether it's through council or others. The key issue for me is what's going to happen beyond this year. And it's a big part of our strategy in relation to City Deal and other projects that we start to look at that economically inactive cohort and really deliver against that.
Okay, you want to come back on Councillor Farrell?
Cheers for that update, Kevin. So here, I think it's good that, these programs are maintained and there's new programs introduced as well. And obviously it's good that, our rate spend last year has gone down from 198k to 127k. So that's more value for money for the public finances. And obviously it's better for the people that need these programs, the long-term unemployed, NEETs, disabled people, etc. But we normally get a report on this about the ESF, and it appears in these meeting packs, and there's not an awful lot of discussion. What I would like to see, if possible, is have we ever brought providers on here as a delegation to give us an update on what they do? And in particular, what I would like to see is people that have gone through these programs, they tell us what benefit they got from it, what they did, and did it result in employment? So I think that would be useful because there's only so much information you can actually glean from a report, and I'd be interested in the outcomes, either from a provider point of view or people that have gone through programs. So I'd like to see that at some stage in the future, if we could get some sort of delegation in.
I'll just come back first, Kevin, at the end. Kevin, just to repeat, the declaration of interest as one of those one of those providers, but I think it is a good idea, and it would be useful for members to hear the work that's ongoing that this council are funding or match funding, because I know from my own experience that it's extremely important work. But Kevin, do you want to say anything just in response to that too?
I was just going to say we coordinate an ESF group. It's a subgroup of the Education Skills Delivery Partnership. There's a kind of one of the groups is, they rotate the lead on that. I'm sure that the skills team could potentially work with that lead or that group to, pull together a presentation to come in. There wouldn't be an issue on that. And that's how we then bolt under the wider economic development strategy.
Okay, thanks for that. There's no further indicated speakers, and has been proposed and seconded, so we'll take that item as passed. Move on to agenda item 9, and that's Kevin again, I think.
Sorry, my laptop. So, members, the purpose of this report is to seek your approval for the LMP Labour Market Partnership Action Plan 2022-2023, and comes off the back of what we've just been talking about in relation to ESF and looking at employability and interventions that we can do as a local council to deliver against some of those challenging issues. So, members will have previously been updated on the establishment of the interim LMP last year, which was established under DFC's new employability NI framework. As previously agreed by Council, the existing Education Skills Delivery Partnership, which is within the community planning structures, has been acting in the short term as an interim LMP. The interim LMP has been responsible for the production of the 2021 and 2022-23 action plans. So in terms of progress, Council has now appointed an LMP manager, and as we moved to year 2 in the delivery phase of the action plan, the partnership will itself become fully staffed and functional under a permanent LMP structure. So we're working internally in relation to that to try to populate that staffing cohort itself. The previous plan was presented to members for approval in July 21, and the action plan was then submitted to DFC for review. and subject to further detail and clarification was then approved at a regional LMP meeting in December itself. So a number of actions have been delivered across that action plan to date. So DFE requested that the 2022-2023 action plan be forwarded to them in draft form in February 2022 for their approval. And this was approved from their perspective on the 25th of March. So the contents of the action plan actually mirror pretty much, with some minor amends, what we were looking to do in 21-22 itself. So DFC have informed all Northern Ireland LMPs that they are committed to funding across the LMPs, but have advised that 5.5 million of the total 7 million budget is committed. They're working, and there's a letter actually attached within the reports pack in relation to that. They're working to secure the full amount, but obviously with an inability to approve multi-annual budgets, that has impacted on full approval, but we're able to work and progress at pace in relation to delivery of that action plan with the allocation and the letter of support that we've received. So the total budget for our LMP is in the region of £726,000, with a further contribution of 50,000 from DFE. And the recommendation is that members approve the contents of the action plan and the updated report.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. First indicated speaker is Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Chair. I think first I want to welcome the decision by DFC to invite bids for the LMP programme. It shows the department's commitment to try to impact on those furthest from the workplace. I think, you know, if we did have a government in place, of course, that funding could be a bit larger than what it is, but anything which helps take people out of unemployment back into the employment market has to be welcomed, particularly in this region. I would, however, just say one other thing. I know that in other council areas, they recognise self-employment as a real option for career enhancement. And I know, for example, in Uri and Mournes and a number of other regions that they have included within that educational attainment for people that maybe don't have that many skills but are considering self-employment. So I think it's maybe a trick we missed this time around, but we definitely should look at doing that and partnering with people with skills in that area. You can find out what other people do. If you want, I can talk to Kevin after and see if we can talk to what our councils do, but it's something I have an interest in. I previously used to work in that area, and I just think it's to be welcomed. It's a great programme. It's worked very well, and our thanks to the Department for Communities for putting the much needed funding in place.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McGowan.
Kevin, have you anything to respond to that? Or are you okay?
No, I suppose in relation to the good thing about LMPs is that we can shape the delivery and what projects and what interventions we make. So I'd certainly be open to that conversation. I think we sit on the employability NI regional group, which is a kind of forum for dialogue between all the councils. So I think it's something that we could potentially raise at that group and try to understand what Uri, Mourne and Down are doing, and look at whether or not there's something that we can build onto this action plan or further action plans to look at that. Absolutely welcome that.
Okay, Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Kevin, for the report. Again, I'm happy to second this on behalf of the SDLP. I think it's really, really important that we have local people making local decisions, developing a sort of tailored package for improving employability for the population across this city and district. The end result is going to be more people with better skills and more people with qualifications, more people in employment, and hopefully well-paid employment, and a noticeable reduction in poverty and economic activity. And the pack that we've been given here today demonstrates how bleak the outlook is in some of those key indicators. There's 341 council areas across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. and we have the second highest rate of economic inactivity. We have the third highest rate of children living in low income households. We've got the third highest rate of people with no qualifications, and we've got the fourth lowest wages of any council district across the UK. So I welcome this intervention. You know, there's a lot of things in the pipeline that are going to have a positive impact on the economic performance and ultimately the quality of life of people from across this city and district, namely the city deal, but this local labour market partnership can help to shape that. The pack has a lot to digest, and I'm going to make a similar proposal to the last time. I think it would be good to get representatives from the panel in here at some stage for a presentation on the activity, because it's a massive document, and there's only so much you can actually get from a document. I think it'd be worthwhile, maybe not straight away, but you know, as the panel starts to bed in and some results are being noticed. So I would like at some stage in the future to have a delegation from the LMP to explain in detail, you know, the work that they're doing on a daily and weekly basis. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Farrell. Sure, Council Officer will take that suggestion on board now and get up set up. I didn't quite catch, Councillor McGowan, did you propose that item? Or are you happy to?
No, I'm happy that Kevin will look into it. I mean, I don't think there's any need.
Okay, so well, that's been proposed and seconded by Councillor Farrell. So again, we can take that item as dealt with and move on to item 10. I think Stephen's taking this one.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, item 10 is around the Sperrin Sculpture Trail. And the purpose of the report is to request members to approve additional funding of £70,000 for the installation of adequate car parking and ancillary facilities. Members will be aware of the Sperrin Sculpture Trail project, which is a partnership between three council areas, ourselves from Annanoma and Mid-Ulster. Project's going to be extremely iconic and is currently being constructed on all three sites. The site for our area is the site of the old Sperrin Heritage Centre. We've always been aware that there are other works outside of the installation of the sculpture that we needed to do. So this has highlighted issues in terms of the existing car park and the current state of repair. So this is to fix that car park so as it's ready for visitors when the sculpture trail is ready. And the planning permission was subject to the approval and the provision of car parking spaces. This is not the total for the wider site. I mean, obviously members will be aware that there's a building there and we need to do some of the buildings. So we're currently working on a kind of mini master plan for the rest of the site, and that will be subject to papers in due course. But this work will allow us to tidy up the site, make it fit for purpose, ready for visitors when the sculpture trail opens, hopefully by the summer. So we're seeking approval from members to allocate the additional funding of £70,000, which will be treated as a compensation event as part of the existing project. So it also is good value for money because the contractors are currently there, and hopefully members will approve the request.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Alderman Devaney is indicated.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in, and I do welcome this report coming forward from Stephen. And as many of us know, this is a £2 million project in progress. And look, as you would know yourself, Chair, nearly every project like this, we need good car parking facilities. We heard it earlier on about council car parking facilities, but this is for this one here. And look, on behalf of the DEP, we would be very happy to propose, because this will enhance the whole area up there and allow people parking to visit the area when it's open. I do take on board, you know, as I said, it's a £2 million project, 75% funded by DERA, and contributions from 3 different amalgamated councils, which is good news. And look, I take on board Stephen's concern as well about the building up there, and look forward maybe to that master plan coming forward in relation to that building. But Chair, happy to propose the recommendation. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Morris. I don't have any other indicated speakers. If I can get a seconder for that, then we'll take that item as read. Is anyone happy to second?
I'll second the chair, Councillor Barrett.
It's been seconded here in the chamber, but so no, that's fine. Okay, but item is dealt with. So that takes us on to the final item on matters for decision. And Stephen's taking this again, I think.
Thank you, Chair. So members will be aware of the Harbour Square redevelopment project, which incorporates the public realm works and the art sculpture, which was formerly known as the Factory Girl sculpture. So to date, we've been going through the process of designing the space and doing a competition for the art sculpture. So the report in front of the members, we're seeking approval to appoint the successful artist as a result of the tender process, but also to then the next phase to prepare the application for DFC for the wider funding for the entire the capital works that will be required. So I don't need to go through the background. Members will be very aware of the background and the issues to date. So where we are now is we've got the ICT team has been in place and has been doing the design work. We've had an arts consultant that has been helping and liaising with the various stakeholders. We ran a pre-qualifying competition, and then the actual competition, in which there's 6 artists were selected. You'll see the results of 6 artists and the prices that were put against each of them. So on the basis of the moderating panel, they're recommending that artist F is successful and is taken forward. The appointment is subject to CPD approval and obviously also planning permission. And then as a council, we'll be securing the full capital cost through DFC. There are no equality, rural, climate change or data protection issues. Obviously, in terms of financial, in due course, there will be a report coming through as part of the overall capital review group, and we'll be going through GSP, looking at the total capital funding required for this project and others. So we're not requesting that we secure that funding at this stage. And there's an initial expectation from DFC that we would contribute 10% to the project as a minimum. This is subject to discussions with DFC and will ultimately form part of the paper that comes through to governance. So at this stage, we're seeking members' approval to approve the selection and appointment of artist F, and at the total cost of £190,000, and for officers to submit the application to DFC for the balance of the capital development phase, which will include the artwork and the redevelopment of Harbour Square in terms of public realm. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. First indicated speaker is Councillor Cusack.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Stephen. And on behalf of the SLP, I'd like to propose and welcome this item and its progress. But since I started in council back in 2013, getting a fitting, worthy and a permanent tribute or tributes to our factory workers, our heritage and our history has been, to say, a long and arduous journey, to say the least. And this was a cause that I was really personally keen to see, tangible results, because a lot of people have been saying, why don't we have something? Why haven't we had something in all these years? And, while we tried to build up momentum, there was always an issue with planning issues, with funding issues, there was lots of bumps and hurdles along the way. And obviously I dealt with you, Stephen, when I was chair of the committee. And, when this came up as being able to, get the funding through, the city deal and the capital redevelopment, it was great. It was great news. But obviously these things still do take time. So it's great to see where we are right now. And I know it's going to be a relief to many, particularly the friends of the factories and all those amazing factory women and men, to see some light at the end of the tunnel. I'm sure everyone in this city is excited to see this artwork become a reality and something we can all enjoy. And hopefully this is only one of many more artistic representations of our incredible manufacturing history and people, because it is such a selling point. It does bring people to the city. People are really interested to hear about that and people's individual stories and how it did shape our culture and the people we are today. So I'm absolutely delighted to hear how far it's come now, and that we really are, reaching the end goal here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Cusack. Next is Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Stephen, for the update report. It's great to see that the artist has been appointed, and there was a few to choose from, so that was good too as well. I'll not rehearse all the ups and downs of the whole project, but I just want to mention that we did have a very good meeting a few months ago on the Guildhall with the fire brigades, and I know there was other councillors there as well. And I do hope that whenever the artist is informed that they have won the tender, that they continue to meet and consult with the group that has been formed, and that council officers do the same. But just a second, this proposal too as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Patricia. Next, it's Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Stephen, for the report. So here, I'm happy to sort of reiterate the comments of the previous two speakers. You know, this is fantastic news that an artist has been identified after a very competitive process to deliver the long-awaited Factory Girls public artwork, which is going to cost £190,000 at Harbour Square. And it's important that we as a council recognise our shirt-making heritage and the massive and invaluable contribution that the Factory Girls have made to the very fabric of this city. It's well deserved and it's long overdue. And they've been disappointed, they've been dejected, they've been demoralised in the past when previous plans haven't come to fruition. But we're determined to get it right this time. But I have a question, and it states in the pack that it'll take 20 months to complete after the confirmation of the artist. And the artist won't be formally appointed until we have CPD approval, until we have planning approval, and until we have the full capital, which is 1.7 million. So none of the actual 20-month timescale to get the artwork built and in place will only kick in after we have CPD approval, after we have planning approval, and until we have the 1.7 million. So what could be considered as realistic timescales for this? Thank you.
Take that, Stephen, before we move on.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. I mean, obviously there's a number of things in there. The planning approval itself is in one way within our gift, but another way we're estimating the maximum amount of time. So that's why it's kind of in those months. But you're looking at we're targeting completion by the end of next year would be our target. So that's everything done and dusted. So a lot of these things we hope are shorter than where we are currently, because there's an awful lot of goodwill to get this through the system and get it done. And we would like to get it certainly within the next financial year. But if we can get started now on this, then we can get the planning in, we can start that work. And if we can shorten the planning process, because in one way we have to go through the full process clearly, but in other ways there has been planning for a sculpture there already, so we're not starting from a blank sheet, which makes it somewhat easier. So we're hopeful that can be shortened and in an appropriate way. So but we're targeting, I'd say, December 23.
Okay, thanks for that, Stephen. Next speaker is Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. I look like the rest of the speakers have no problem in supporting the report and welcome it, and it's timely, and I think we'll not go back in history about this issue. As we say, we'll look forward. I do take on board, the contribution that the factory workers have given on this city and the stories that have been told, and they're very much the fabric of the city that binded us all together through very, very difficult times. And I do take on board Councillor Farrell's concerns and around the timescale and tidying up the other bits and pieces, the 1.7 million and the planning and stuff. But I think Stephen has answered that. And look forward just to seeing the sculpture being in place and being upgraded. To remember, the stories and all contribution that the factory workers have given over the years. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Morris. Final indicated speaker I have in the chat is Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, look, it's a welcome news that we're making progress on this sculpture being put in place. As others have said, we need to honour the shirt factory workers and the contribution that they've made. And I think we all know that it's taken far, far too long. It's been too much of a torturous road to arrive here. And I think what Stephen said, I think we should aim to hold council to account on that and make sure that this is delivered and done as soon as possible, because we can't really tolerate another period of years where people are standing around waiting for this sculpture to be put in place. I know, speaking to many factory workers, they're delighted that there's a bit of progress, but they've also been here before, so we need to make this happen. And look, there are some projects that have been delayed recently, and maybe that has to do with the pandemic and all that. But this can't be another one of them where once again people are wondering what's happening and if there's ever going to be a proper commemoration for the shirt factory workers. So it's welcome news that we're here and that there's an artist selected and people are excited about it. I do want to add that that there is commemorations now around the city in the form of the great plaques that the Friends of Factories put up along with the Dairy Trades Union Council, and they are that is a permanent memorial around the city at many of the factories that's been there now for a year, and there will be another one added to that this year, which is going to be at the Star Factory, and that's going to be part of Workers' Rights and Social Justice Week. And this is where people have basically decided that they're not going to wait around. They're going to make things happen. And that grassroots effort as well has been absolutely fantastic in making sure that there are memorials across the city for the shirt factory workers. So that's going to be something for us to celebrate while this work is worked on. And hopefully we see the delivery of it, as Stephen said, as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, for the permission to come in. Whilst acknowledging a tremendous contribution that factory workers will have made in the city, can I remind colleagues that clothing factory workers did exist throughout our district, be that Adria and Strabane, Herdman's in Cyan Mills, or indeed Spamount in Castlederrig. And I would trust that Council will take long-term consideration that these workers would similarly be recognised in the future. I appreciate, as I said, the contribution of the factory workers to the city of Londonderry, but remember, there are others throughout our council district similarly employed and similarly contributing to the well-being of our community. Thank you.
Okay, I have no further speakers. The item's been proposed by Councillor Cusick and seconded by Councillor Logue. So again, we can take that item as passed. I'm going to, as per usual, we're moving into the section for information. Take items 12 to 15 in a block. And if anyone wishes to speak on any of the items, please just indicate either the chat or here in the room. So first speaker, Councillor Reilly on item 15.
Thanks, Chair. I appreciate I'm not a member of the committee and this is an item for information, so I won't delay too long, but it's just, I think, to pass comment on the Learning City Lifelong Learning Festival that was launched today. A very impressive programme of events taking place over a number of days later this month, right across the council area, and there was a good turnout at the event this morning, which was very good to see. Chair, it occurred to me, and it was raised at this morning's launch, that as part of the Learning Cities Festival, that there is an exhibition entitled Seen to be Heard, which exposes women who are suffering from secondary breast cancer. And for those that might not be aware, secondary breast cancer means that the breast cancer has spread to other parts of the body and can no longer be and can no longer be cured. So for that group of women that are affected by that, this exhibition is very important and very poignant, and it is on display in Belfast currently, but it isn't on display in our council area. And as part of the Learning Cities network, that I think it would be useful to have that exhibition to be displayed somewhere in our council area. So while not a member of the committee, I would suggest that someone on the committee should propose that the council engages with the artists behind the Scene to Be Heard exhibition and try and see if there's an opportunity to bring that display of images and the ladies involved in relation to that secondary breast cancer campaign to have their pictures displayed somewhere in the council area. I think that would be appropriate. So as I said, Chair, I'm not a member of the committee, so I can't make that proposal myself, but it was raised at this morning's event. So so happy to see Alderman Devaney has proposed it in the chat box. Thank you for that, Morris. And I'll leave it there, Chair. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Cusick. So that's fine. So it's been proposed and seconded. Is there, Kevin just wants to come on and say it just before I take that as read.
Yeah, I'll take it away and make inquiries and see what can be done. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, members. So there's no further indicated, sorry, just here in the chamber. Councillor McGowan.
Sorry. I'd like to speak at item 13 and item 14. Sorry, missed the mic there. I think Enterprise Week's a very important week. I think we all appreciate that. But maybe not for this meeting, but for the next meeting, if it's possible, if we get a breakdown of the delivery budget for that week. I'm also keen, there's a lot of stats within that, but I would love to see the stats that from before and after the event in terms of the number of inquiries into the start-up program or the growth program, just to see if it has generated any uplift in those. In terms of the main event, I see a lot of stats within the report. It would be useful if we could get a total number of hours that the event was watched. And as well as that, if we could get a breakdown of the attendance figures between SMEs and support groups at each of the events. And last, I think the competition was very successful. I know the 3 winners were not from outside the city, but I would also like to know the number of entries into the competition from Derry. I think it's important that when we do these events that we review them and we see how effective they are. So if we could have that for next meeting. In terms of the Invest in A review, I think a number of the parties here today were at that meeting. I was at the previous meeting with Chamber and a number of businesses, and they say that the mood in the room was negative would be an understatement. I think there was a number of companies that I've met who were not at that meeting throughout the city who were very disappointed with Invest in A, very disappointed in that they're looking to create jobs and the funding wasn't there. And I'm just looking at that response from council. I know I spoke to Kevin about that, but I think, we've talked for years about how inefficient and how ineffective Invest in A have been in this region. And I think we're given a chance in this review to put forward what the elected members and what this region thinks of them. And I think the reply that we've put in is nearly there, but I don't think it's strong enough in tone. I couldn't find one business that morning that was positive about Invest in A. Not one of them thought that Invest in A was an integral part of the delivery in this region. Not one single company at the first meeting. And I believe that Sean Harkin and myself and Rory and Connor were there. And again, I think the reading in that room was that they abysmally failed this city and this region, this district. Not just in FDA, but in every single thing. In fact, a comment was made that day to Sir Michael Lyons that they don't even have a shingle up for their office in Strand Road, that you only can find it if you're jogging along the quay. So it's very important that council take, that the officers of council realise that, that reply, again, it's okay, but it's not strong enough. The message to Invest in A should be that this city, this district is not happy with them. We're not happy with the way they're structured, and we're not happy with the way they deliver, and we're not happy with anything at all that they do. And in terms of that question, do we consider them an integral part? You know, the answer that morning from everyone I seen in that room was definitely not. And that was even from people there closely associated with investing. So I did feed into Kevin some of the information, but I think it doesn't come out strong enough in the reply. I think as well as that, we have a strategic growth plan for the area, and social economy is a huge part of that. And I believe in the original reply, before I fed into it, there wasn't one mention of social enterprise. Now, I find that bizarre. We have a strategic growth plan, but we reply to invest in A, and we don't use the phrase social enterprise once. So we can't have that. And I thought that was disappointing. So that's just all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, there was a request for further information on the initial part of your comments there. Just I'm sure Kevin can take that on board and get that information to you. But is there anything you want to say, Kevin, in relation to the response? Go ahead.
In relation to Enterprise Week, yeah, I mean, absolutely. In terms of whatever data we collect, we can certainly share. Enterprise Week is not just about starting up a new business, it's about growing existing businesses. So it's not only targeted at new business startup inquiries, I will say that, but and the budget's outlined on the report itself. In terms of the response here, I think in terms of the feedback that's come from anybody, we've tried to incorporate that feedback as best as we can. Welcome more, and certainly if members want to send me the feedback directly, Sir Michael Lyons has offered us the opportunity to compile that in an email and send it directly to the review panel. So any feedback that I have received has been incorporated into the review. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair. So just to follow on from Councillor McGowan's comments regarding Invest NI, you know, I am blue in the face expressing my frustration with Invest NI and its lack of delivery here in Derry and Strabane and the wider Northwest. And the facts are clear. We've got the highest unemployment in the North, and we've got the lowest wage levels in the North. So whatever Invest NI is doing, it's clearly not working. And we have met Invest NI on numerous occasions over the last 2 years. And on every occasion, we have put it to them that there needs to be regional targets in place for jobs, for investment, for investor visits, and for wage levels. And the response that we always get back is that that would be a ministerial decision. So we have written to various DUP economy ministers requesting that they come to this council, they listen to our proposal about an enhanced regional package. And we've written to Diane Dodds, she didn't show up. We wrote to Paul Frew, he didn't show up. We've written to Gordon Lyons on numerous occasions, and he hasn't shown up either. So we welcome this review into the efficiency and effectiveness of Invest NI. And a number of the councillors, myself, Councillor Harkin, Councillor Heaney, and Councillor McGowan, actually met Sir Michael Lyons. And you know, we don't agree on everything, but we agreed that Invest NI were totally ineffective in creating job opportunities and investment for the people of this city and district. And I know when Gordon Lyons launched this review, he made a point of saying that the North is the most attractive place for foreign direct investment in the UK outside of London. And I'm not sure where he's talking about, but he's not talking about Derry. And I gave Sir Michael Lyons, no relation, apparently, some stats regarding outcomes across this city and district. So foreign direct investor visits organised by Invest NI since 2017, there have been 814 in Belfast and 26 in Derry. Inward investment projects in 1920, Belfast £114 million worth, Foyle £3 million worth. And jobs created via external investors, foreign investors, between January 2020 and October 2021. Belfast got 3,900 and this council area got 75. That is not good enough. And our response states that there should be a review of the promotion of Northern Ireland at a sub-regional level. I think we need to be more specific. I think we need to be more forceful, and I think we need to be more unambiguous regarding that. You know, it is our council's corporate policy that there should be regional targets for Invest NI. And I think that needs to be reflected in our submission document. So I take Kevin's points on board. I will email you that. I thought it was a useful meeting with Sir Michael. I'll be interested to read, you know, what the outcome of that is. But unless there are regional targets for Invest NI for the areas with the highest unemployment and the highest deprivation levels, things aren't going to change. Because Invest NI can be given as many job targets as they want, but if it's not focused on areas with the highest unemployment, it's not going to change. And that's going to do nothing for the people that we represent. So we'll see what the outcome of it is. But I think we need to be more forceful in terms of what our ask is. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Roy. Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Chair. Look, I think the criticisms are the criticisms of Invest NI are long-standing from many people across the council. Personally, I think Invest NI should be abolished because I don't think it is effective. I think we need a different kind of organisation that can meet the needs of our district, of this region, and bring in the kind of investment that's targeted and also have a kind of more of a kind of social justice ethos in its dealings as well. But as critical as I am of Invest NI, I don't think Invest NI is the sole part of the problem. This is about Stormont's failure to have a development strategy for the Northwest over many, many decades. It doesn't have one. So we can't just blame Invest NI. And because Invest NI takes direction from somewhere, it takes direction from Stormont. The second part of Invest NI's failure is not just about Invest NI in the Northwest and Derry. It's about, Invest NI is led by Stormont, and Stormont's economic model has been privatisation, running down public services, lobbying for tax cuts for big corporations that are very profitable, like Capita, like Moy Park, and you could name many others, and promoting the North as a low-wage payer, or low wages for multinational corporations. I mean, that is the model, and that is a failed model for the vast majority of people, I would say, across the North, but particularly it's failed here in the Northwest, where Invest NI can't even deliver on that part of it. So I think that we should criticise away at Invest NI, but I think we have to look at the overall strategy of the Stormont executive over the last 2 decades as well, which has really failed people here in the Northwest. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, there's no further indicated speakers in this section, so that concludes item 4. Do you want to come back, Kevin? Yeah, go ahead. Just
probably best to try to, circulate that, get me that information sooner rather than later, so that well before the panel start making conclusions. Now I know that they've said that they'll accept, so what we've tried to do is respond to the detailed questions that they've given, but they've allowed us also the opportunity to do a more bespoke response. So if people have specifics that aren't written within that response, if you can send them to me, probably before the end of it, well, definitely before the end of April, so that we can get those in, and I'll do that, no problem at all.
Okay, thanks for that, Kevin. So this takes us to confidential business. Can I have a proposer to go into confidential, please?
So proposed, Alderman Devaney.
Okay, thanks, Morris. And if we could let us know when we are off air, please.